Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 87 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joe Lanny Pavlon. Alongside me tonight, I have the usual panels here with Danny, Justin. So, we have a lot to cover with this past weekend, especially with what happened in Bahrain International Circuit for the Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But first, let's just understand how thankful us race fans should be of the safety features that are in the sport today after years and years of changes that happen most of the time too late after a tragedy would happen on the racetrack. What we saw on Sunday was the result of chronological changes made to safety features in motorsport. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the results of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Round 15 of 17 of the World Drivers' Championship this year. Bahrain was actually one of the first events originally to make changes due to the current life situation we have and, COVID-19. In March, they were quick to announce the race to having no fans at all.
Yep. And
for the soon-to-be canceled Australian Grand Prix.
And it was supposed to actually be race 2, like original schedule, race 2 in March, and then November, which is many months later, we have that race, not way off the scheduled date, but yeah.
Well, Bahrain this year is a little different. We have 2 races, 2 different layouts. The traditional Bahrain Grand Prix was yesterday, but this weekend we have a new layout, the outer circuit. People actually overseas call it an oval. It doesn't look like anything like an oval to us who watch NASCAR.
But the speeds I heard, like there was a simulated test with a Red Bull. The Red Bull did a 55.3 seconds. If a Red Bull does that, the Mercedes might do 54-second lap times. Like, you could do, like, most cars will do a sub-minute lap time, like on a fast lap. So I wonder how Mercedes will do with a fast car, and that track is going to be a lot of fast corners. It's going to be interesting, but the traditional Bahrain layout was interesting.
Right. So let's look at the race results, and we'll discuss the situation that happened on the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, the champion, 7-time world champion, led 56 of the 57 laps in the race to win his 4th Bahrain Grand Prix, tying Sebastian Vettel for most of all time. His 11th win of the 2020 World Championship, which is something Lewis Hamilton has never exceeded in his successful career. And also the 95th win of Hamilton's career as a total. That spanned from, of course, the beginning in 2007 to where we are today. His 164th podium, and before the race started, he scored his 98th career pole, which is possible. Lewis Hamilton could reach 100 by the end of the season if he's perfect for the next 2 races.
Yeah.
Domination, right?
Yeah. He did dominate, which people are like, oh, boo. A lot of fans are like, boo. It's like the Mercedes. Like, do you want to know what's interesting about Mercedes? Somehow they build it. There was other fast cars in the different eras, like the MP4 McLaren or the F2004 for Ferrari. I heard that Mercedes built their car. Their car is 4 seconds faster than the F2004 and 7 seconds faster than the McLaren MP4. They just built this car that is so fast. It's just like, people are like, I don't like Mercedes. I'm like, Mercedes knows where to put the money. You put it in the
may
car.
Be fast.
Yeah,
It may be fast, but Hamilton was not the fastest driver in the race. That goes to second place driver.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen, he did get the fastest lap in the race. So that's one more point to Verstappen, but it's not so easy in terms of Max himself.
He also pitted to get better tires to get that bonus point, but he's still third in points. Like, the thing is, Bottas has just been getting points, so which, like Mercedes is just like, you got to do something else. You can't do the same strategy as Mercedes. You got to do alternate things because Mercedes,
absolutely.
Like, you just see the Mercedes car just cruise down the straights and in the corners. Like, the car is just, the handle's really good compared to the other cars.
Absolutely. And it helps you in qualifying. And that's the thing Verstappen has done best, to split the Mercedes cars in qualifying, especially with Q3. But at the same time, the tires you run in Q3 are the tires you must start the race with.
Yeah.
So that adds to the challenge on race day. Second and third, this is the first time since 2017 of Singapore where two Red Bull cars finished on the podium in the same race. Alex Albon, who started fourth, was the lucky man and stayed out of trouble to score his second career podium and his career best finish for the second time. And for Albon, the Thai driver completes a double podium for Red Bull and double points, which is very good for Red Bull in the Constructors Championship, as well as Albon. Now, Albon recovered from a crash in free practice too.
Yeah.
Another question for Albon is, where will he be in 2021? We have no idea where Albon's headed for next year.
Yeah, because it's still unknown, because we don't know who's in that Red Bull seat yet. People are speculating different drivers, but you never know what they'll put. We know they're not going to put the driver that's not performing, but there's other seats like F2 like drivers like
Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki Tsunoda is looking to take over the second AlphaTauri seat alongside Gasly, which Tsunoda in his rookie season F2 just been performing, which is really good for him. But we'll see who goes to what seat. We still don't know.
At this point, we just have to keep our eyes open. But that driver you were talking about, Tsunoda, I think he would be the good driver to put in that seat. So only time will tell.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. Well, let's take a look at what happened outside the podium results. Fourth and fifth. Now, I forgot to mention, after the crash in lap 1, the race did restart. So the second race began on lap 2 and continued to the rest of the race. But it was about an hour-long delay to repair those barriers.
But also, we didn't get much racing until another safety car, which we'll talk about what happened. Yeah,
we didn't get the first actual green flag lap across the entire track until lap 7. Yeah. But fourth and fifth, in fact, was the team that actually capitalized on the other constructors' problems, that being McLaren. This was a big deal for McLaren Renault, as Lando Norris finished fourth and teammate Carlos Sainz finished fifth, giving McLaren their third double points finish in a row this year. And with that, McLaren is now third in the World Constructors Championship. And we'll get into why that is and how that happened as we go down the results. But a big deal for McLaren. Sixth place, Pierre Gasly, the Italian Grand Prix winner this year, had a very solid run in his AlphaTauri. He started 8th. Daniel Ricciardo finished 7th and remains in the fight for 4th in the World Drivers' Championship, just by 2 points after that race. Valtteri Bottas, the second Mercedes driver, started second, finished 8th, and gives Mercedes double points. 9th place, Esteban Ocon, the French driver, started 7th and helped his French team get double points. Renault, well done. And Charles Leclerc brought his Ferrari 10th in the final points paying position.
Yeah.
So outside the points, Danny Kvyat had a very eventful race. The front end of his car made contact twice in the first two incidents. He did get a a time penalty and finished 11th.
But the penalty was remember when he pitted, he did his 10 seconds penalty before the stop, like Hamilton did his penalty before the stop. He did that, but yeah, he was always there in an accident.
Right.
Yeah.
George Russell finished P12, still searching for first points in the Williams. And Williams, since Germany of 2019, continued their run without scoring a single point in Formula One. Sebastian Vettel finished 13th in his Ferrari. 14th was the other Williams car, Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah.
Latifi started 20th in last place. 15th, Kimi Räikkönen, the veteran, finished ahead of his Alfa Romeo teammate, Antonio Giovinazzi. Kevin Magnussen had a very struggling run, finishing 17th. 18th place out of the race, classified because he completed 90% of the race distance, was Sergio Perez.
But he still has electrical as the issue.
Yes.
And yeah, that really was not...
This was horrible. Lap 53, just about an important run to finish a podium run after his teammate Lance Stroll crashed on lap 2 on the restart to give Racing Point that boost in the Constructors Championship. Just 4 laps shy, too soon that engine gave way.
Yeah, which was really bad, but Racing Point still has a chance because you have 2 races. If the Racing Points could, I know Racing Point's good, like they have fast.
They're fast.
It's just if they don't get into problems like the engine or like crashing.
Right.
Yeah.
So Lance Stroll crashed out on. He started 13th, but on lap 2, his car turned over after contact with Danny Kvyat's car on the restart. And as a result, Racing Point scored their first non-points finished since Singapore of 2019.
Wow.
So that is a stat. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that Racing Point scored points. I mean, literally the name is Racing Point, but Racing Point F1 scored points in every Grand Prix of 2020 up until yesterday.
Yeah. And you got to get to 20th, the last finisher.
Yes, last place out of the race on the opening lap is the subject of this next topic, Romain Grosjean. Romain Grosjean had that horrible crash on the opening lap when his Haas Ferrari pierced the guardrail, the Armco barrier, causing it to go aflame on the opening lap. And the French driver's car split in half on fire, putting the driver's half of the car in a ball of fire on the other side of the guardrail, right where track marshals were. And after a long 20, 30 to 30 seconds, we saw Romain get out of that car, climbing over the wall as it burned down on fire.
Yeah.
A true testament to safety and how far we have come in motorsports.
Yeah, because that crash, people are saying, remember in 2018 before 2018 they decided to have the halo, and people like, oh, it's ugly.
Yeah.
The halo has done a lot. Remember 2018 Spa, Charles Leclerc without the halo, that would have been a serious injury. 2019 there were some moments. 2020 Romain Grosjean, the halo, like the guardrail there, the halo got pierced by the guardrail. Without the halo, that would have been a serious injury. But all those safety precautions that F1 decide to have, basically protected him, because that could have been way worse. Like it was a 50G impact. he was going 137 miles per hour to that guardrail, which is a hard impact. Like,
that is incredible. And,
yeah.
and where Grosjean hit the barrier, that took place at an area on the racetrack where you don't normally see a car crashing. And, well, the fire, we haven't seen a fire like that in F1 in quite a long time. Maybe we have to go back to the days when refueling was a thing during a race, and pit stop mishaps would be normal, like in every motorsport. Yeah, that's how far F1's gone.
Like, one of the moments about refueling was Jos Verstappen. Remember that mistake? But, like, they don't refuel anymore. If the fuel's already in the car, like, they have an amount, the fuel load, where they have it, it's in the middle of the car. That's why it caught on fire. And people are like, how did the car split in half? Like, the back half, like, where Grosjean was, the front half was, part of it was through the guardrail.
Yeah.
Like, there. The back part was on the other side, near the track. It's like, that was so hard that the car split in half.
Yeah, and it's how would you say this now? The way I see it, it was kind of like a breakaway, like it's split in half as a breakaway. Like I see in like most manufactured cars, like everyday like street cars, supercars, they would have that same breakaway system, and it did its job. But unfortunately, where the fuel cell was, and it split in half and it caught on fire. That's the really scary part about that wreck.
I mean,
and
that
honestly, I'm glad Grosjean is walked out of that crash alive and well, because if that would have been a different scenario, it would have been fatal.
I'm afraid you would have been correct if this was just a few years back without that halo device. That simple halo device, I called it a simple addition when it was added back in 2018, because it really looked like a simple addition. Like, oh, the halo device will just keep your head around if something happens. No, the cockpit where the driver sits and everything that surrounds it. Just go ahead and take a look at the 2012 Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, the start of that race, how Alonso's head was nearly, I don't want to use that word, but there was a near possibility of decapitation when I think it was Hamilton's tire, or
it was,
that went right across Alonso's helmet.
Yeah, it's like remember 2018 Spa, Charles Leclerc's crash without the halo. That would have been really worse too.
Horrible.
Oh, Alonso on top, like flying on top of Leclerc's Alpha.
The tire hit Leclerc's Sauber
the
halo device. It actually dented the halo device on Leclerc's car.
Yeah, without the halo, that would have been a worse outcome.
Right. And we can also go to some other situations of open cockpit crashes. 2 years ago in Pocono, Pennsylvania, Robert Wickens had a career-altering crash when his Indy car went into the catch fence nearly head first, and the car actually split in half, and the cockpit area seemed to do its job. But, going into the fence like that, it was just...
But there was also other cases with IndyCar Pocono, like 2015, when a piece of debris hit Justin Wilson. Like clearly hit him. Like,
right. Wilson never survived.
That was really like a wake-up call.
Big time wake-up call to open cockpit racing.
Yeah, like when they put the halo device, I was like, okay, hopefully it's safe. And then the Leclerc crash happened at Spa. I'm like, thank God that exists, because that would have been worse without the halo.
Yeah, it really
Absolutely.
would.
And let's talk about the fire. Track marshals are out there. Most of them are volunteers. Some are I assume picked by the FIA.
Yeah.
That aren't local track marshals, but are out there by each corner area to wave flags and also to have fire extinguishers ready on the spot
in case something would happen.
Mm-hmm. And luckily, that car didn't go any further when it pierced the barrier and went over, because otherwise, marshals could have been in danger. And that reminds me of a near tragedy that happened in Macau 2 years ago with Sophia Flores' car that went.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Funny, we were talking about that 2 weeks ago, previewing the Macau Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Well, these situations happen, and they happen suddenly and fast. And luckily, the marshals weren't injured, so that actually helped Grosjean's situation. They could put out the fire faster. Grosjean escaped the car on his own.
Yeah.
And under the red flag, I believe it was Martin Brundle who said on the broadcast on Sky Sports F1 that these drivers are actually required by the FIA to pass a self-extraction test where they have to extract themselves from their car with the equipment taken off and themselves out of the car within a certain amount of time, I'm assuming maybe like a few seconds or a minute. You must be able to take them off and get out of the car within this little amount of time.
I heard the doctor that got out of the medical car, Dr. Ian Roberts, said that took Grosjean 18 seconds. 18 seconds. Like, the thing about that, another good thing, I remember they interviewed I forgot his name, the guy that drives the medical car. They interviewed him. The medical car,
Vendor.
Yeah. The thing that's good about where the crash happened, the medical car arrived right away. If the crash would have been turn 13, that would have been a while to get to turn 13. But it was in turn 3, so the medical car arrived right on time. And then, and I remember just watching the broadcast, before the aerial shot, I remember we just saw a car going off, Grosjean's going off, and then right on the other side off the track, I'm like, whoa. And then I saw a white car hitting the barrier. I thought, it was a Haas. I didn't know who it was because the timing and scoring didn't update.
First sector.
Yeah, I did. It said red flag, and then I saw 20th was Grosjean at the time. So and then they saw a shot of the fire. I'm like, it was just a horrible situation. You don't expect that, a hit like that off turn 3 on the start of the race. It was just so bad. I never expected that to happen.
So if you wonder why there's always a medical car in the back of a grid when the race starts, it's for situations like that. So where there's an incident on the opening lap, which is a very likely situation in open wheel racing, that the medical car in the back can get there quickly, just like the track marshals in that scene of the accident can.
Yeah.
To that added supply of help if needed.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the medical car arrive there, and Grosjean was sitting in that medical car until the ambulance came, because they were treating his burns. He actually got some minor burns on his ankles and his hands. So I remember he posted on his Instagram, his socials, that he had some Band-Aid type plastic over it because the burns. Because he was there for 18 seconds and trying to get he was stuck in the car and with the guardrail. I'm just glad he got out, and because nobody expected that to happen. I just expected, like, nobody expects a car to go pierce the barrier at 137 miles an hour with a 50G impact on the first lap.
Yeah, that's very unusual. You never see that anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why you see down corners there are plenty of gravel, usually gravel traps, access roads
Yeah.
after DRS zones on your typical circuit, so that people expect brake failures to happen at that part of the racetrack, so they have extra supplies if needed to support a car that might be going in there fast pace, or extra barriers at a certain corner, knowing there will likely be a lot of impacts there with brake failures. But what happened was a sudden impact, and luckily the driver was conscious enough to get out of the car.
Yeah.
And those 18 to 30 seconds saved him.
Yeah.
Now, how has safety evolved in motorsport?
It's really evolved.
Well, go ahead and take a look at the 1964 Indy 500 yourself and tell me what happened.
Yeah, like, also, like, the safety's just really evolved. Like the safety's been better. Like, the barriers, they're starting to put in, like, barriers that don't, like, break easily. They also put, like, they have the halo device. They have all these devices, which really helps the drivers.
What about barriers? Let's discuss the type of walls that NASCAR drivers would face during its near 52-year history before a certain race at Daytona in 2001 happened. Well, obviously that was the 2001 Daytona 500 when Dale Earnhardt lost his life in a crash that looked very, very, very minor. And the fact, he passed away suddenly, just thinking about what happened in 2000 when 3 drivers, 2 of them at the same racetrack, died, 2 of which were at New Hampshire from brake failures, died straight in a concrete wall. And that opened the door for Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Sorry to cut you off there, Justin, but Indianapolis Motor Speedway was actually the first track in the U.S. to supply safer barriers in 2002.
Yeah, and also it's in 2000, like early racing, like people think in stock car racing the last person that passed away was Dale Earnhardt, but they always forget Blaze Alexander's impact, Charlotte 2001 in October, where he nosed into the wall. There's still races right,
but Dale Earnhardt's death was NASCAR's equivalent to Senna in '94, and after Senna's tragic death in 1994, and perhaps one of the darkest race weekends in the history of motorsport, which was the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in Italy, 3 specific crashes happened. The Rubens Barrichello crash honestly looked like one that could have been unsurvivable based off the impact.
Yeah,
he was only hospitalized, and it was a long time since he would go back into a race car. Then Saturday, Roland Ratzenberger was killed in qualifying.
Yeah,
and Senna, who was a big advocate for safety in motor racing during his time, started on pole in the San Marino Grand Prix, and he died on the restart after that red flag on the opening lap, and it was in front of the world, perhaps the greatest driver of that time. Killed in the lead in front of the world, and that was a big wake up call for open wheel racing, not just Formula One, but open wheel racing, because they have their history of fatalities go back a long way, especially with the thinking about the cars, the design of the cars, the speeds they go, and especially, I know I say the word a lot, the open cockpit at the time. They didn't have these Hans devices. They were uncomfortable, wear head and neck restraint.
Yeah.
But after 94, no driver lost their life for another 20 years in F1, Jules Bianchi.
That crash was just that crash was interesting because the conditions, the track conditions were bad, and you don't expect a driver to slid off the track and then hit a part of a tractor and then that was hoisting a car that went off. Nobody expected that. And then the Halo device came in 4 years after 2014. In 2018, they added that, but then people think, oh, it's all safe now. Nope, 2019, what Antoine Hubert's sudden passing.
That was honestly a freak accident. Just thinking about how these terrible tragedies happen in motorsport within the last 5-10 years, they usually happen off of a freak accident or something just bizarre, like going into where the marshals were, where the tractor was hanging in wet conditions. That actually revolutionized the virtual safety car feature, where you can just put everyone in safety car mode for just 2-3 seconds if the marshals need to run out, instead of just leaving it as a local yellow.
Yeah, because that crash for Hubert was there was Correa that spun, hit the barrier, and he bounced back on the track in front of more cars. That's
how he ended up wrecking and losing his life, man.
Yeah, it's just those freak accidents. There's freak accidents, and there's just some freak accidents sometimes that just.
And I'm thinking about these severe accidents here that happened in the last few years. They weren't really as much of racing incidents than they would have been 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. This would happen at least every month of May in Indianapolis.
Oh, jeez.
Let's go back 50 years in the 60s and 70s. You would at least expect 1 or 2 drivers to have a career-ending or tragically a fatal accident in the month of May for Indy 500 month. It was normal that you would accept this as reality in racing, and that you do what you love with this as a risk, with this kind of possible result. It could happen to you. It happened to Eddie Sachs and Dave McDonald. And that's where I want to go back to with the Grosjean incident, how fires in racing have decreased drastically with different fuel cells and technologies that prevent cars from exploding.
Yeah.
In the 1964 Indy 500, the fuel, most of the cars had fuel tanks underneath the cockpit. And in the second lap of the race, Eddie Sachs and Dave McDonald, 2 pretty decent drivers from America at the time, perished in front of 200,000 people, and the race continued. It was actually the first ever Indy 500 to be stopped because of an accident. Here's another situation that a lot of us don't remember too much, but I think it's one to highlight. It was the 1964 World 600.
Yep.
After the death of Fireball Roberts, drivers would eventually be mandated to wear a fireproof racing suit.
Yeah.
A fireproof racing suit, which was somewhat of a luxury at the time, is now in today's world mandatory, or they won't let you get in a race car.
Yeah.
Self-extraction is mandatory by the FIA. I did not know that until yesterday. The red flag.
Same thing.
Yeah. Safety, you have to be safe. You got to wear a fire suit. You can't just wear a t-shirt, or you can't do that. You got to put all these safety precautions because people think, racing is not a dangerous sport, and people think that's not dangerous.
Let's just make it clear cut right now. Motorsports is dangerous. Period. End of story. Right?
Yeah.
And and then it's up to you to make yourself safe from these particular circumstances where it comes down to a life or death situation.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Who was that Formula 3 driver that posted a video of himself on Instagram driving like a maniac on public
Oh,
road?
I know. Alessio Delita. The guy that I told you that runs last in almost every race he ran. That guy. He was the teammate of Peroni and Florish at Campos. That guy. Yeah, that's not a smart person.
You know what's funny is his F3 career is literally last place of all the drivers who run full seasons amongst himself.
But he actually.
I think he never passed that many cars before until that viral video of going on the public highway.
But also, it's kind of funny
in a Lamborghini.
That sometimes the part-time drivers beat him in points.
Of course they do. What I'm trying to say is it's never okay to drive unsafe on public roads. And it was a Jackie Stewart. Yeah. Jackie Stewart, the 3-time world champion himself, said, "I'm tired of attending funerals. I'm tired of going to say goodbye to my fellow friends.
Yeah.
2-3 times a year."
Yeah.
And when Jackie Stewart raced, these bad crashes and horrible tragedies would be part of the Formula One process. And the cars got faster, and safety had to catch up, and it took a while for that to happen. Ronnie Peterson is another example I completely forgot about. His accident at 1978 Italian Grand Prix was gone way too soon.
Like safety, like you can't always.
I forgot to mention another wreck. The 1970 Rebel 400 at Darlington. Richard Petty.
Oh, jeez, yeah, that.
His car went directly into the inside wall, proceeding, I think, 3 rolls on its roof. And as the car flipped, you could see the driver's head and upper body in blood, looking like a dead body, flipping before landing on its top. And it looked like Richard Petty was killed in front of ABC. World Sports, and it was Maurice Petty who in 20 long minutes let everybody know that my brother is okay. He'll be a little sore. Hopefully he won't miss too many races. And then Richard went on to win, I think, 4 more championships in his 7th.
But he didn't win. He didn't win the 70 champ. That was Bobby Isaac who won that title. But you can't, people always say racing is safe. They're in a car.
What happened in 1970? Why did that happen? And why did Joe Weatherly die in 1963 after a simple inside impact at Riverside? The window net was not a thing yet.
Yeah.
The window net, a simple window net, prevents the head from exiting the car upon impact. And 6 years after the death of Joe Weatherly, Richard Petty, perhaps the most popular figure of stock car racing at the time, nearly lost his life in a more violent-looking accident that saw the upper half of Richard Petty himself flying around. And that's when things changed in NASCAR. 1987.
Oh, yeah.
The addition of restrictor plates at fast speedways.
Yeah. Yeah, because Bobby Allison cut a tire going over 200 miles per hour going into the fence. Yeah,
What about some other crashes? Just to name a few more before we head off and back into the Bahrain discussion here. I know.
How
about grass? Grass can be dangerous.
Oh, yes, it can.
In motorsport, just look at what happened in 1999. Greg Moore's car went head-on into the inside concrete barrier after part of the grass picked it up, and Greg Moore didn't make it.
Like, it's just, yeah, like, there's always those accidents, like, that I've seen so many bad accidents. Like you also had different accents, like,
Yes, Justin. As a fan myself, watching NASCAR, all kinds of motorsports for 15 years, I've seen 5 drivers die before my eyes as it happened. Dan Weldon, unfortunately watched it when he died on TV. 2011 at Las Vegas in the IndyCar race, which I think was just a horrible idea on some to have 34 cars at a banked oval. That's more cars than the 500.
and what a
0.5 banked oval.
with that package too. That package didn't really help either.
Couldn't pull away from
Yeah.
one another in those Dalars. Then 2013, Alan Simonson looked like a very simple accident in the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah.
His head actually from the cockpit of the Aston Martin Vantage GT hit a tree behind the tire wall Tetra Rouge
Ooh.
in the 9th minute of the 24 Hours of Le Mans that year,
Yeah.
killing the Danish driver. 2014, of course, Jules Bianchi in the Japanese Grand Prix, just horrible conditions. And 2015, Justin Wilson, after his head hit a piece of debris last year, Antoine Hubert at the F2 Spa race.
Yeah.
And you get that gut feeling watching an accident like that happen. Just watch our podcast from February, the 2020 Daytona 500 review.
Oh, yeah.
2 hours before we learned about Ryan Newman's condition, that update, we did not know how he was, what the seriousness of that accident really was to the driver from South Bend, Indiana. And we were on the podcast. We went live. Danny and I went live. Between that time period, it was a tough decision, but we made it work. And it was just that horrible gut feeling. And 2 days later, out of the hospital after being hit head on by a car going over 190 miles an hour.
Yeah.
To being released from the hospital 3 days later.
Yep.
Just unbelievable stuff. So let's get back to the Bahrain Grand Prix. I know we highlighted safety in racing, and I could go on and on about how much has changed in motorsports.
Yeah.
But let's get back into the race. So the race restarted on lap 2 after a near hour-long red flag. And immediately contact between Lance Stroll and Danny Kvyat, sending Stroll's car upside down and putting him out of the race. And what did that mean for Racing Point?
That didn't help Racing Point at all because one car had no chance of points, but also there was like the race was like, I just remember watching the replays. Like, do you want to know what one corner? Usually like at Bahrain, after the S's, there's there's the turn where that contact happened. Usually, I would see a pass going into that not a hairpin, but after the sweeping S's, there's that tight corner going towards the fast corner.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the tight corner where Callum Ilott got in the Honda Rula, that corner. Usually, you see a move there. I don't know how Kvyat was so far behind Stroll. He thought it would work, the dive, but that ended up flipping over the Racing Point. And I remember Stroll's like, yeah, I'm upside down. He's just there, like, he can't do anything until he got out of the car.
And immediately after that, Sergio Perez was told by his team to start pushing, because the World Constructors Championship, exiting the Turkish Grand Prix, they had a major advantage. Lance Stroll could have won that race if you really, really think about it.
But his tires just fell off so bad.
So double points, and Perez finishing second. That put Racing Point 5 points over McLaren
At the time,
at the time, and now
Yeah.
this happened. So
Oh,
it was all or nothing for Checo
yeah.
to just push it hard and get that podium spot. He was racing in third for most of the time. And of course, Checo, we know his future is still up in the air. We don't know where the Mexican driver's going next year. As much as I think we all understand and believe that he does deserve a ride in Formula One.
Yeah.
There's more on the line for Sergio than ever this year.
Yeah, because also about other than that accident, Kvyat got that 10-second penalty, which people are wondering why. I'm like, it's kind of weird that's been the same driver involved in the same 2 accidents in the first laps. You don't expect a dive on lap 2 when you're many car lengths behind. You don't expect that dive. It's kind of early for a dive on lap 2, but there's always...
It was also lap 1 again.
Yeah, it's he was so far behind. He thought he could make a move by so far behind, but that clearly didn't work. But Racing Point just they had speed.
Terrific speed.
Whew, you just saw Perez was just pulling away from Albon in third for towards the end, but
and the car failed.
Yep. The electrical issue with the engine. I noticed because you didn't notice. I'm like, oh, Perez is smoking, and then it just blew it all up and had to pull over and give it to Albon.
And even if Perez did finish third, McLaren had a terrific run. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz 4th and 5th. So that eventually propelled McLaren back to third in the World Constructors Championship. Now, can they hold on for the next 2 races? That's the big question.
I don't know. It's just there's some tracks that the thing about McLaren is they got to worry about Racing Point. They have speed. The next 2 tracks, what does Racing Point have that they have compared to last? Yeah, if you look at the outer circuit, fast corners and straightaways. If you look at Abu Dhabi, fast corners and straightaways. You have the straightaways that, the Renault power it's not the Mercedes power, which Mercedes, I know Williams has Mercedes, but that's just their car is not the best. But they actually gained 2 seconds from last year. But the Racing Point car is basically the Mercedes W10 from last year, which Mercedes has their W11, which is an OP car that people are trying to make a car like that, but not working too much. But I feel like Racing Point, if they could just have both their cars in Q3, help them be in Q3 and having strong runs, it's going to help them to try to pass McLaren, because there's some parts I've noticed that a thing about the Racing Point that they have an advantage is qualifying. They qualify really good compared to McLaren sometimes. McLaren qualified 9th and 15th. Stroll sucked, he qualified 13th, but Perez's qualifying has been really helpful.
Very brilliant.
He qualified 5th,
right,
which is really fast.
So let's have a look at the World Drivers' Championship with 2 races remaining. As already obviously mentioned, Lewis Hamilton clinched the World Drivers' Championship, but the battle for second is slowly brewing. Valtteri Bottas has 201 points. That means there's 14 points.
14. I thought he was at
189 points.
That's 12. 12 points. 189 to 201. That's 12 points.
Yeah, 201.
Yep, so that's 12 points. It's close, but recently Bottas has not had the best races. If Bottas didn't get a puncture from debris from Vettel, he would have had a better race, but it's just the punctures. when you get stuck in traffic, even a fast car, you struggle because dirty air. Like if that doesn't happen, he's gonna be fighting Max.
And Verstappen has to do whatever he can to hold on to that fastest lap honor, because you get the fastest lap, you get an extra point, and that can honestly make or break the difference between a Mercedes 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship or Max Verstappen possibly catching Valtteri Bottas. Now, Bottas might have a better advantage coming into the next race, especially with the layout in the Sakir Grand Prix. But the battles don't stop for a second. Fourth, fifth, and sixth, they're kind of on a battle of their own here. Daniel Ricciardo passed Sergio Perez. Now he's got 2 points over Perez. Sergio sits at 100 points in fifth. Leclerc had a struggling race, but did manage to get 1 point, so he's up to 98 now. 98 points in sixth. I'd say in range for Ricciardo and Perez, but he's going to have to do a lot of work and defeat the odds to make that happen. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, the two McLaren teammates, are 7th and 8th, 1 point apart. Lando has the advantage over Carlos Sainz Jr. Alex Albon is also in that hunt as well. Now, Albon searched for a seat in the 2021 World Championship. Could possibly pass the two McLarens if the McLarens fail, but the McLarens have a bigger thing to fight for in the World Constructors Championship. And lastly, Pierre Gasly, 71 points in 10th. The World Constructors Championship, Mercedes, obviously, they clinched that, 533 points. They're up in the good.
534 actually. But they're still
doesn't make a difference.
They're still gone.
Red Bull Racing Honda, I think they're somewhat in the secure for second. I think that it's impossible for anyone to catch Red Bull at this time for second.
Yeah.
McLaren Renault, 171 points. Racing Point beat up to Mercedes, 154 points. 10 points over Renault, 144 points to the Renault factory team, that is.
Yeah.
Ferrari, 131 points in sixth. They could catch Renault if Renault has problems. Now, that seems very unlikely due to the nature of where Ricciardo is in the Drivers' Championship.
But also, Renault has a good car compared to last year, but Ferrari, you just see the car is not passing people. Their car's just fighting. Sometimes they struggle to beat Alfa Romeo in some races. The Ferrari engine cars are just
struggling.
Haas and Alfa are not doing the best. I know Alfa has
the other AlphaTauri, the junior Red Bull team.
They're
97 points. They're 7th in the World Constructors Championship. Alfa Romeo Racing Ferrari, 8 points in 8th. Haas Ferrari, 3 points in 9th. And Williams Mercedes still with 0 points. They've been close to breaking into the top 10, getting points this year, but it just hasn't happened yet. They have 2 more races to make that happen.
It's kind of funny. I actually noticed that Williams has 4 11th place finishes. One was Russell. Latifi has 3 11th place finishes. And it's just, Williams is just, they actually, do you want to know what's interesting? Do you want to know how many seconds that since last season, Williams has gained 2 seconds of pace. Where they're not slow compared to, remember most every race last year, 19th or 20th? They're actually not 19th and 20th. Like Williams is slowly getting process done, but I know they want points, but them not.
George Russell keeps putting the car in Q2.
Yeah, like qualifying, like Russell's just fast on Saturdays, they say.
Fast on Saturdays, but can you be fast on Sunday? And that's the slippery slope in qualifying, because you start the race in those tires, you qualify it.
Yeah, it's like also Williams is like, people are always bringing up Kubica got a point. I'm like, that was a lucky point.
That was off technicality.
Yeah, if Alfa Romeos didn't get penalized 30 seconds, Williams would have had no points. But basically, Williams needs miracles, like many crashes or like.
They might need another case of the Austrian Grand Prix this year when the season opened.
Yeah, Latifi finished 11th in that race.
One retirement away from those other drivers to put Williams in points.
Yeah.
So they'll be back this upcoming weekend for the Sakir Grand Prix, which is the name of the next race. It's actually a makeup event for one of the last dates that we had in 2020. It will be held at the Bahrain Outer Circuit around 16 to 17.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and discuss the feeder series. Formula 2 or Bahrain Part 1 for the penultimate weekend of the season, week 11 to 12. It's been a while since the last Formula 2 race happened.
It was Russia. Yeah, Russia. The last time we had an F2 race was that sprint race that lasted a couple laps because they went over their 1 hour limit with the Kyoto Aitken crash. That was the last F2 race, but F2 was interesting. I'm one of the people that was up for both races at 4 and 5 a.m. Yeah.
So the feature race, MP Motorsport driver Felipe Drugovich, Brazilian, won the feature race. Callum Ilott finished second, but he does score points for pole position. Now, Ilott is in the championship hunt.
Yeah.
John Duravala, third.
His first podium. And also first podium for Indian driver in Formula 2.
Well done.
Yep.
Mick Schumacher, the championship leader, fourth. Nikita Mazepin, fifth. The fastest lap did go to Yuki Tsunoda in sixth. Marcus Armstrong, Robert Shwartzman, Dan Tickton, and Jack Eichen were the top 10. The top 10 received points in the feature race, and the top 8 received points in the sprint race on Sunday.
And the top 8 are inverted from like the feature race results. The top 8 are inverted, so 8th place is starring on pole position. Yeah.
Right. The sprint race was won by Robert Shwartzman. Nikita Mazepin finished second, so Russia had 2 drivers in the top 2.
Yeah.
First and second. Third place went to Louis Delatraz, the Swiss driver. Did pick up fastest lap in that race. Marcus Armstrong, fourth. Grande Vichot, fifth. Christian Lundgaard, sixth. Mick Schumacher did manage to get points in seventh. Felipe Drugovich, the feature race winner, finished eighth. Now the standings with 1 more week to go. Mick Schumacher, the son of 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher, 205 points right now. So Callum Ilott, 14 points back in second.
Yeah.
Nikita Mazepin, third, 162 points. Fourth place, Robert Shwartzman, 159 points. And Yuki Tsunoda, fifth, with 157 points. The team standings goes, it seems pretty close, but I think Prema Racing might have what it takes to lock it up at the outer circuit this weekend. Prema Racing, 364 points. Unai Bertozzi, 316.5 points in second. High-Tech Grand Prix, third, 266 points. Fourth place, Carlin, 208 points. And with 201 points in fifth is Art Grand Prix.
Yeah, and also I want to say about the F2 race, it was interesting, and also in the sprint race, in the feature race, no retirements, everyone finished. In the sprint race, we had a couple retirements, which Gian Deruvla was one of the retirements. After a race start, Callum Ilott locked up. He didn't want to hit Schumacher, so he had to hit Deruvla because he didn't want to take out Mick Schumacher, and that's why he didn't finish in the points. But also, the first person out was Theo Porcher. Somehow, he was racing along. His fire extinguisher the fire extinguisher went off in the car.
That is a 2020 thing.
He just was racing. That was his first weekend in an F2 car. He finished second in the F3 points. And yeah, it just decided to... You never expect that while just racing. And also, Pedro Piquet. He was running third ahead of his teammate. He had a mechanical failure with 2 laps left. He almost got his first podium, but his car just had a mechanical failure with 2 laps left. That really just stings when you're almost there getting your first podium, then your car fails with 2 laps left.
Can't help that in motorsports.
Yeah.
So likewise, 14 points separate the two drivers, both in the Ferrari Driver Academy,
Yeah.
with possible seats on the line here for next year in Haas F1 and other teams for all the drivers.
Yeah.
One more race weekend left. The feature race, you can earn up to 25 points in the feature race by winning.
Yep. But
and 15 points if you win the sprint race. But
fastest lap is 4. There's 4 points for pole in the feature, and also another thing, fastest lap you get 1 point there. Also,
for both races.
Yep. But the pole for the feature race, you get 4 points, which really helped Callum Ilott because before the weekend started, he was 22 points. Then he went to 18 points because of Ilott getting the pole. Like, that's the thing about Callum Ilott. He gets poles compared to Schumacher, which the bonus points, with 4 bonus points,
he's going to need them.
If he does that again, he gets 4 points there. He'll be down to 10 points before the weekend, the races start. Like, it's going to be a close race. Because 14 points is not compared to last year, which Nick DeVries literally locked it up at Russia, round 11. This year, it's really a close battle.
All right. So this upcoming weekend, we do have, as I mentioned, a few races, but I forgot to mention, we have one more event that happened in the past weekend. The final race of the Super GT Championship in 2020 was another date at Fuji Raceway, where many of the makeup races happened in 2020 due to the current situation that we are all living in.
Yeah.
And it came down to the final straightaway of the final lap of the final race of the season. It's a movie. Like, only in a movie could you actually make that happen. Well, in this case, 2 points separated the two teams and drivers, Naoki Yamamoto and Tadasuke Makino for Team Kunimitsu Honda NSX GT500, past Ryō Hirakawa, Tom's Toyota Supra on the final straightaway of the final lap on that long straightaway at Fuji Circuit to not only win the race but get those 2 points needed to pass Hirakawa's car and get the championship. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Yeah. Well, over in GT300, the championship did go to Kyoto Fujinami and João Paulo de Oliveira, where Kondo Racing Nissan GTR Nismo GT3. They won the GT300 category with much ease compared to their counterparts in the higher class in Super GT this year.
Yeah.
So now we're back to what's upcoming, and there's a lot of interesting things in racing this weekend. We'll start off with the Sakir Grand Prix, the inaugural race on the outer circuit of Bahrain for the penultimate race of the Formula One World Championship, the F2, the final race weekend of the season at the outer circuit at Bahrain. We had the Snowball Derby, the crown jewel stock car short track race in Pensacola, Florida, that has been ran for 52 years since its inception in 1968. The Snowball Derby, a classic short track showcase in northern Florida. And the FIA World Rally Championship will complete their 7-round season with the Rally Monza to close the FIA World Rally Championship in 2020. So let's have some predictions for Sakir in F1. Let's predict the podium.
For me, my podium for Sakir, I have Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton has to be there. Hamilton, Bottas, The guy in third, this driver, he has one podium. Don't know how many podiums this season, but he has a best finish of a runner-up position a couple weeks ago.
Thanks for telling me.
Third place, Sergio Perez in his Racing Point. I feel like he could somehow pass the Red Bulls. They might be fast because that really helps their cars.
All right.
Oh, jeez. What are you going to say, Ferrari?
Lewis Hamilton, second place. Another magical run by Checo. Sergio Perez, second. Third place, Valtteri Bottas. But not without a little joust between himself and rival Max Verstappen.
Oh, I thought
Verstappen might get the fast lap. I bet he's gonna do everything he can to get that fast lap.
I don't know. It just depends how fast I know the race. Usually races people think it's usually 60 laps. The outer course 87 laps because it's so short. Like literally, the lap time should be sub-minute one, so under a minute should be the lap time. So 87 lap race, but it's a shorter circuit, so it's going to be quite a fast race. Even 87 laps, it's not going to take forever to complete. It's not 87 laps at Spa. If there would be 87
that would be an endurance race.
Because Spa is a 4 miles, 7 kilometer track compared to this Bahrain circuit is so short, which, yeah.
But I mean, I think the last time a Formula One track had a lap time under a minute would have been when they had the Indy 500 part of the World Championship. But I don't even think those cars went.
Well,
in fact, I'm doing research right now to see how long 262 seconds would be. That would be
1 minute. 1 minute is 140 seconds.
1 minute 60 seconds.
Yeah, but wait, what am I?
Take that back. In the Indy 500, qualifying is based off your speed.
I know at an older track that used to exist, the fastest lap was 1 minute 9. But in 1964 and 63 at what was the track? Zeldwig Air Base, the track that was not a good track. That's how Austria.
It's pretty dangerous.
But that's how Austria had an event. That's the first Austrian Grand Prix, if people didn't know.
Yeah, before the A1 ring came.
Yeah, and that's
where we've been today.
At least that track's more safer than because they had a concrete slabs there, but they always came up after a while they started to rise, which it's not it doesn't affect planes, but it affects F1 cars, not planes.
Well, planes are meant to take off, so just think about that.
But an F1 car sitting there, a plane's not gonna react to just because planes are heavy. If people never knew, a plane is heavier
and meant to go in the sky. Just think about the aerodynamics. We're putting into perspective here. Now these drivers are racing at a track that is going to have high speeds.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see maybe instead of a 2-3 pit stop race, we might see a 4 pit stop race just to pick up the tires.
Yeah, it's not a simple 57 laps. It's 30 laps more. 87 laps, which is the other longest track that we had. The last time was Monaco, which is 78 laps, which Monaco's different than this.
Obviously.
Yeah, 87 laps. But in Monaco, they used to run 100 laps at Monaco, which is crazy, back in the 60s.
It's unreal.
Yep.
All right, Formula 2 predictions. Actually, one more prediction for F1. Which constructor will come out of this race third in the standings? Racing Point or McLaren, Racing Point, or Renault?
I have Racing Point because I feel like Perez getting a podium would help, and Stroll will actually get points and not flip over from Danny Kvyat. Hopefully not. That doesn't happen again, but I feel like Racing Point can somehow get the third in the constructors if they just have a solid day, like double points. If they get double points, that's really going to help the Racing Point team, because that's what you need. You can't have one car finishing, like, example, Perez getting a podium and Lance Stroll's not even in points. Like, you can't have that. You got to have double points, which really helps.
Especially if McLaren has, the certainly more slower car. They're going to have to be faster this time around.
Yeah.
And they're going to need both cars in the points for sure.
Yeah, they can't have Landon Norris 10th and then Sainz just 12th. They can't have that. They got to... No. Oh, I just realized because it's a shorter track, they might lap many cars in the race. Because
how will that impede the progress of the leaders?
What happens if they lap the Ferraris like 2 times? Oh, jeez.
In your dreams.
Well, the Ferrari, that's not their advantage this time. The high-speed track, the cars have too much drag. It's still proven that the car has too much drag, and the engine doesn't help. But it's not the GP2 engine that Honda had in 2015 with McLaren.
Yeah, the GP2 engine was atrocious.
And it's like Alonso said that at Japan of all tracks too. That's where Honda, the company's based in Japan, and he had to say it at that track too, which was more like, oh, yeah.
Well, Formula 2, one more race weekend to go. There's 14 points between 2 drivers here. Who will win the 2020 FIA Formula 2 Championship?
I feel like Mick Schumacher. The reason is like, I know Ilott's good in qualifying, but I feel like Mick Schumacher just has better race pace. And Prema's going to try everything because Prema has a recent championship in 2017 is their last championship, which was Charles Leclerc. 2018, they did not win the title. That was Russell at ART. And then Nick De Vries won it last year for ART, so our Grand Prix had 2 championships back-to-back. But I just realized I feel like it will be Schumacher, because I just feel like he has enough of race pace to win it.
Race pace, you're going to need it. And Mick Schumacher, I think he's a very quick driver, fast. He'll race like his father.
Yeah.
And Michael raced aggressively. So I'm going to say Mick Schumacher will complete the 2020 FIA Formula 2 Championship on top, as it should.
Yeah. I just realized it's going to be the first time in a while. It's going to be the first time in a while that the team's championship it might happen that the teams and driver title be the same team. Because last year, Nick De Vries won the title for ART, while Doms won the
team's championship.
Yeah, that's why their numbers 1 and 2, because they don't have personalized numbers like F1. They have based on your ranking. So right now, Doms is the 1 and 2 for this year because they were first, while Prema, they didn't do too well with Sean Gelael. Mick Schumacher was a rookie last year with Sean Gelael just there. So that's why they're 2021. But the reason they have 25 numbers was the new team High Tech entered. They were F3, but they entered also F2 this year, which is also numbers that are retired. Like 19 is retired in F2 after last year's accident at Spa. So yeah, so Prema might win another team's championship again.
We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Nonetheless, everyone's going to be entertained for sure come race weekend. Before we discuss the 2020 Snowball Derby, let's highlight what is going on in the 2020 FIA World Rally Championship. 7th and final rally of the season is at Monza, the ACI Rally Monza, also known as the Monza Rally Show. Will actually finish the season for the FIA World Rally Championship. Alfyn Evans, the Welsh driver, is in the points lead entering the final race. Sebastian Ogier, a 6-time world champion, is mathematically able to catch him. You need 25 points to win the rally. And right now it's going to be close. But in the end, the best will win. In rally racing, I know we don't cover it too much.
Yeah.
Requires a lot of skill. And precision.
And a good co-driver.
A good co-driver, right, which of course is being led by Scott Martin.
Yeah, the only reason I know about World World of Rallying, like the WRC, I actually have WRC 6, that video game. I'm not the best at rally racing. I always somehow end up in a tree. I don't know how I end up at parts that usually you shouldn't go off. Yeah.
But there is a really close battle in the World Rally Championships for manufacturers.
Ooh.
Hyundai Shell Mobis WRT, 208 points. So they are 7 points ahead of rival Toyota Guzzi Racing WRT, 201 points.
Wow.
M Sport 4 WRT locked third in the World Manufacturers Championship, and Hyundai 2C competition locked up fourth, as they are both mathematically unable to catch one another ahead and behind their respective positions. All right. Snowball Derby, Pensacola, Florida. Chilly December week on the horizon, and a boatload of entries that continue to count. How many we have this time? I think must be over 100.
I don't know how many we have at this point. There's still the 81 with... What? That's kind of funny how... the
TBI.
But they have a hometown? Are we supposed to guess who's this driver?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Let's, before we go any further, the 53rd edition of the Snowball Derby this upcoming Sunday is an all-star short track stock car race at the Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Last year, the winner was Travis Braden. He didn't cross the line first.
No.
He won after Stephen Nasse's car failed tech inspection after winning the race originally, though he was disqualified from race results, giving the win to Travis Braden. First race was in 1968. Ray Ninigan Sr. won the event in the inaugural race 52 years ago. Rich Bickle is a 5-time winner of the Snowball Derby. He actually just withdrew from the race this upcoming weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, he was supposed to enter his own number 45, but he pulled out. Yeah, he pulled out.
So very unfortunate. 5 wins, and after Rich Bickle, no driver has exceeded more than 2 victories in the event. Those drivers include the inaugural winner, Wayne Ninigan Sr., Dickie Davis, Freddie Fryer, Gary Santamont, Bobby Gill, Audrey Grill, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and recently Eric Jones. Those are big-time names here. And what about the drivers who won the Snowball Derby beforehand? Let's throw in some names. John Arne Nemechek, Christian Eckes, Noah Gregson, Jeff Purvis, Butch Miller, Darrell Waltrip, Donnie Allison, Pete Hamilton. Let me throw in another name. Ted Musgrave, champions.
Yeah.
Across all forms of racing. 2 females have won the Snowball Derby. Tammy Jo Kirk, 1994, from nearby Dalton, Georgia, And Johanna Long from Pensacola, Florida, had a very popular one 10 years ago. Boy, has time fly.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott, the very following year, became the youngest winner to ever take the checkered flag at the Snowball Derby. I believe he was just the age of 15 years old in 2011. 19. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was not. Yeah.
And guess what? He's the defending Cup Series champion. And he's
he was
back to contend for a third win.
in his car number 9. I knew he was going to pick 9.
I knew it.
Yeah, I knew he was going to drive the 9 because
He's an Elliott. He has to.
I know he's also running it now. And there's other names that people have heard, but not recently. I'm going to give you a name that possibly some people don't actually remember this driver. Ross Kenseth. He entered his number 3. Yeah.
His father is the 2003 NASCAR Winston Cup champion, Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, Ross Kenseth, who made one Xfinity start at... No, he actually made 2 starts. One at
Chicagoland.
Yeah, for Gibbs, and one for Attori Racing at Phoenix.
Front row at Chicagoland. I actually remember that.
Yeah, and then he drove the 80 car at Phoenix. Not the final race, but at Phoenix, the race before Homestead. Yeah, he drove that number 80 Toyota. Yeah, there's
if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if I'm 100% on that, but I think 37 cars qualify into the main show from what I saw last year.
But this year we'll see how many because I just don't know. But other entries: Derek Kraus from Wisconsin, Derek Griffith, who's an ARCA driver. Looking through Carson Hosfar, who signed with Nice Motorsports for 2021. He's in the race. Caden Lapsevich, former NASCAR Penny Series driver. He's entered his number 16. Mason Diaz, ARCA East driver. Casey Roderick, who ran one Xfinity start.
He's a great short track driver.
Travis Brain, last year's winner. Chandler Smith, who's he'll
be a threat.
He will. Also, Grant Enfinger in car number 32. He's entered the Snowball Derby this year.
What about Kyle Busch? The two-time Cup champion, won for the second time in 2017.
Yeah, Derek Thorne. He's also entered. Daniel Dye, also from DeLand, Florida. Just looking through. Stephen Nasse, the guy that thought he won, but sadly got disqualified. Cole Butcher, last year's pole sitter. Cole Butcher in the 53. Matt Craig. Bubba Pollard, obviously, is running.
One of the best in the business.
Corey Heim, ARCA winner at Kansas. Ty Majeski, the guy that almost won last year.
He's a fantastic driver from Wisconsin.
And also Augie Grill. He's also entered in car number 1, his signature car number 112. And Dalton Zur in the 119.
We have former winners here. Lots of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I see.
Will a former winner of the Snowball Derby win this year? And that's a likely chance of it happening.
For me, I say no. I feel like we're going to have a new winner.
We have a major pot of soup here, like a melting pot, as they call it. All kinds of variants between drivers trying to make a name for themselves and NASCAR Cup champions and second-generation drivers who are staying afloat in this kind of level. There are all types of drivers in different situations here with different backgrounds that have one goal in mind, and that's to win the big race on Sunday.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, a former winner will win this race. And in fact, we might see our first 3-time winner of the Snowball Derby. Ready for predictions?
Yeah.
Chase Elliott
I
will
thought
win the Snowball Derby. I know I wanted to go with Kyle Busch.
I thought you were at one point. I'm like, oh, no, don't say it. My pick, this driver, he was supposed to be competing in a full-time series this year, but I don't know what happened, and he got replaced after Darlington in his ride. This driver drives his signature number 91. Driver from Wisconsin. Ty Majeski is going to finally win the Snowball Derby.
And now if I had to pick a driver that wasn't a former winner to win the Snowball Derby, I'm going to go with Chandler Smith here. He didn't have the best season in ARCA. In fact, most of the time he raced in ARCA, there was an easy prediction for him to win, and it didn't live up to that. He would get beaten by drivers within the names of Mayer or Ty Gibbs.
Or other races were just some bad luck or wrecks or something, but
he just didn't go his way.
But he's still a solid driver.
Very solid, and nearly picked up that first Truck Series win.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
If he stays with Kyle Busch Motorsports in 2021, we might see that happen. That we still don't know where he's going next year.
Yeah, because
or what the game plan is.
Yeah.
Well, there are other things that we haven't really covered yet, but the replacement driver of Romain Grosjean this weekend is the grandson of 2-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, and that, of course, is Pietro Fittipaldi.
Yep.
Pietro Fittipaldi from Brazil is a reserve driver for Haas F1. He will be behind the wheel of that Haas F1 this upcoming weekend. A big deal for the driver, who was actually supposed to make a lot of appearances in 2018, but an injury at the Spa World Endurance Championship race, the 6 Hours of Spa 2018,
qualifying,
put a halt to his plans in IndyCar, racing the Indy 500 in 2018, and so on and so forth. But I think the time has come for him to shine. I hope I want to see him do well.
And yeah, like another reason people are wondering why can't Mick Schumacher. There's a rule in the FIA that exists. If you want to compete in an F1 race, you're not allowed to compete in the F2 race, which I think Schumacher wants to win the title because that would be bad. Wants to compete in an F1 race, then loses the title in F2 because of that decision.
I think that rule is pretty silly.
But also Pietro Fittipaldi, he knows the car compared to Schumacher. He's been in the Haas F1 car for a while. So he knows the team, he understands the car, which is a good advantage that he knows the team and the car, which is a good thing for Pietro. He just has to learn like the new not just him, but he'll have to learn how the car drives through the corners. But I think every driver would have to learn the new Bahrain layout.
The new layout, that's an additional test, not just for all the drivers, but for Pietro himself.
Yeah, and the Haas F1 car, him in a race situation, like he's usually runs practices, but then he has to go into qualifying and then a race trim. In practices, before qualifying, sometimes you do the practice race trim, which you have full tanks and all that, or low fuel with the qualifying. You always have to do different setups to get the car right.
Yep. And additionally, about silly season here. Before we get into how about Audi Sport, the 13-time overall winning 24 Hours of Le Mans constructor from 2000 to 2014. They have won every Le Mans 24 hour except 2 of them in that time span.
Wow.
Audi Sport will come back in 2023. They are set to shut down their Formula E program and within the next 3 years, prepare their big return to the 24 hours of Le Mans. So if you've ever seen someone, on the street driving a really cool-looking Audi R8, that sports car is actually named after the prototype that won Audi their first ever 24 hours of Le Mans in 2000. Audi, of course, second on the all-time Le Mans overall winning list of manufacturers and constructors. Of course, Porsche with 19 wins overall.
Yeah.
Still an unbeaten record.
Yeah.
So we learned that Peugeot is coming back.
Yeah.
Audi is coming back. And the future for overall contending Le Mans cars is bright. There are things to look forward to for racing fanatics in the next 10 years. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And so should you.
Yeah.
All right. How about other silly season predictions? Oh, I forgot to mention Robert Kubica was in practice for Alfa Romeo at the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Place of Raikkonen. Spencer Boyd, who won a controversial truck series race at Talladega last year, will return to the team where he won for Young's Motorsports in 2021.
And he's still in the same truck, the number 20. And Joseph, by the way, if you didn't look at the private chat, I added that was announced
We'll save that for later.
Yeah.
Jenson Button. Speaking of Le Mans, forgot to bring this up, but Jenson Button, the 2009 world champion in Formula One, has interest in returning to Le Mans with his own team for next year. What does that mean? We'll have to find out when the time comes. Santino Ferrucci, high interest in a NASCAR career. 2019 rookie in IndyCar, who entered the sport within a lot of controversy from his time in Formula 2 in 2018. He had a lot of reparations of his reputation, and I think he has the maturity to go into stock cars in the near future.
Yeah.
Speaking of IndyCar, Romain Grosjean earlier this week announced his consideration to move over across the Atlantic and race Indy cars in 2021, with the team possibly being AJ Ford Enterprises. Now, why AJ Ford Enterprises? Why do you think that would be a good move? Well, his countrymate, four-time IndyCar champion Sebastian Bourdais, a driver he grew up racing go-karts with, would be alongside Grosjean for the AJ Ford team. Could be a decent lineup if things work out over there. Speaking of Haas F1 drivers, Kevin Magnussen will race sports cars like his father has for the last 20 years. When Jan Magnussen left Formula One to go racing elsewhere, his career was successful in sports cars. And Jan Magnussen's still racing to this day. So we'll see father and son possibly racing the same team. Chip Ganassi Racing and IMSA, DPI, Cadillac. We'll have to find out. Rafael Assard, the winner of Talladega in the Truck Series for Kyle Busch Motorsports in 2020, will switch teams. He'll drive for GMS Racing in 2021.
Yep.
Speaking of the Truck Series, Ryan Truex will go to Nice Motorsports full-time in the trucks.
He has his number confirmed as the 40. Hosvar, people say it's 42, but that's still unconfirmed for Hosvar, but Truex will be in the 40 truck.
How about more sports car news? Eurasia Motorsport and Rick Ware Racing will collaborate for the 24 Hours of Daytona in 2021. They will field Ligier JS240 LMP2 cars for next year. Think I miss anything? Oh yes, NASCAR's Xfinity Series most favorite part-time driver AJ Allmendinger will stay with Colleague Racing next year as a part-time driver. AJ Allmendinger won 3 times for the team in the last 2 years. He won both races at the Charlotte Roval from 2019 on a dry racetrack and the very, very wet racetrack in 2020 at the road course in Charlotte, and his first oval win in stock cars at Atlanta.
Yep.
And honestly, AJ could have won much more had luck not fall out of his favor.
And also, people are wondering why not full-time. There's a thing that Allmendinger doesn't want. The thing about Allmendinger, he said he doesn't want to be full-time because, like, he has other obligations.
AJ's a broadcaster for IMSA on NBC.
And also, he runs some IMSA races, too. The, like, enduro races. So that's kind of like... He broadcasts, he sometimes races IMSA. That's why he can't go full-time in NASCAR. Because he's commentator for IMSA on NBC Sports.
I think we might see AJ possibly run... I wouldn't be shocked if he runs the road course race at Coda or wherever. There are a lot of drivers outside of stock car racing showing major interest in making their debuts in NASCAR, especially with the new schedule for 2021.
Well, I know there's another driver that's really going to like that, Josh Bilicki. He's just so good at road courses, and he sometimes runs top 10 in BJ McLeod equipment, so he's going to be a lookout for those road course races.
Put that into perspective.
Yeah.
Just very, very decent.
Yeah.
And lastly, Corey LaJoie will drive for Spire Motorsports full-time in 2021. This just out.
Yep. And
car number 7.
Yep. And I guess Spire will have a little Hendrick alliance, which is an interesting thing. Yeah, Corey LaJoie, people said that's a bad move. He should have went down. I'm like, there would have probably not been a lot of rides down in the lower series, but at least LaJoie has a ride.
There is a second car confirmed, at least for the future, and I hear the rumor says a Daytona 500 winner will be in that car, and a former winner of the Daytona 500. It was NASCAR rumor mill, or whoever that person is on Twitter that gets a lot of likes and making rumors.
What are probably
could it be Trevor Bayne? Could it be Matt Kenseth? Possibly
Ward Burn. I know
NASCAR made history. I saw your tweet. Brock Beard.
I don't think Ward Burn's gonna run. I don't think.
I don't know. We're many years too late on that. If he does, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
Interest for the Daytona 500. We might see about 45 cars. I think we could exceed 45 cars. I know 40 cars make the race, but
we'll see because Rick Ware has an announcement soon. In 2 days, so Wednesday, there's an announcement. Rick Ware's going to make an announcement about something on Wednesday. An ARCA schedule, the ARCA National Series full schedule will be released tomorrow on Tuesday.
Spire Motorsports, known best for what happened in 2019 when Justin Haley won a ring-shortened 400-mile race at Daytona, the Coke Zero 400.
Yep.
After the entire front field crashed, resulting in many laps under caution and then a lightning delay that would never finish in time for a restart, giving Justin Haley the win. He led one lap.
Yeah.
And it was Haley's third start and the first ever win for Spire Motorsports.
But, like, also, people criticize Spire for being slow. I'm like, well, there's always people that think it's the drivers that are that bad. I'm like, they had good drivers in the cars, just this equipment is not the best.
A team that enters their third year.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that it's kind of weird that Spire Motorsports, they always have young drivers and older drivers. This year they've had Stan Barrett for one race, Ross Chastain, Josh Bilicki, Garrett Smithley, BJ McLeod, Reed Sorensen, JJ Yaley. You had some drivers that had less experience, but others with so much experience in that car. Like,
right, and let's not forget James Davison as well.
Yeah, like
Josh Bilicki. They all made starts.
Yeah.
Once or twice for the team.
It's like people
The second car I hear is going to race. Is it going to be a charter for Spire?
There's the 7, which is LaJoy. The second car might be the 77.
Most likely.
Which, the only other time that Spire did not run the 77 number, remember the sponsor Fake Steak? And Sorensen's number was, instead of 77, was the 74 at Michigan.
Right, requested by a sponsor.
Fake Steak, which was an interesting sponsor.
Yeah.
But Reed Sorensen's still looking for his plans for that for 2021, which Sorensen's actually a spotter for Josh Williams at DGM Racing. Other than racing, he spots too, so he's just still in the sport doing different things.
Reed Sorensen, I think he is obviously a very subpar driver.
Yeah, he's had good equipment, like with Ganassi. Like, he's driven for Ganassi. He's driven for good teams. But now he's just driving for...
He just never had the best luck and the best equipment at the right time. It's just...
Yeah, now he's just stuck with the Spire or Premium or
But he's still in the sport, and
that
alone deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and it's not like Kamikaze that one time he did Auto Sim 5.0 and Reed Sorensen kept winning races randomly for Hall of Fame.
He almost won a cup race in 2006 at Fontana, but the fuel ran out 2 laps shy, giving Casey Kane the win.
But it's kind of funny that somehow he made a sim that MBM Motorsports almost won a title with Natalie Decker somehow. That's just, simulations are so interesting. Like, Shane Meal won a title somehow for Hall of Fame racing. Those simulations.
I think we reached the end of the podcast. Enjoy the Snowball Derby this weekend.
Hopefully some person streams it for people that can't afford the Speed 51 pay-per-view. Hopefully.
All it takes is a little time on Reddit or Discord, and bam, there's your live stream.
Probably people on Twitch are going to stream it. We'll see.
Yeah. Stay away, copyright. All right, for Danny and Justin, I'm Joe. We'll see you next week for episode 80 of the Bully of the Line podcast. Make sure you like all our videos, share, subscribe, and until next time, have a good one.
Yeah.